Hi, everyone. It is July 30th, 2023. Today, I would like to expand on a discovery that I made recently and which I introduced also recently, some that you can find in recent interviews that I made. In this case, I'm going to expand on the creation of the material world from the fundamental harmonic of light 144. And in this case, we're going to be using the general relativity equation of Einstein, E equal mc squared, which we're going to essentially process using geometric harmonic units. And we see here on the right side it's the same equation that we have on the left side. It's the same equation, but to express the value or the solution related to the mass, right? So we're going to essentially try to demonstrate how we can create the material world out of harmonic 144. So that's why we isolated here the m into this equation. So just for those who may be less familiar with this, really the material world we live in, all the periodic table of elements that we see on the left side here, all the elements that essentially makes up everything, material world, everything that's physical is made of these elements. And each of these elements really is made of small building blocks, like Lego blocks, if you will. And these building blocks are essentially the proton, the electron, and the neutrons. We see, for instance, the atom of hydrogen contains one proton and one electron, right? And hydrogen is primarily what makes up the stars that we see in the sky at night. The helium, also present in stars, is made of two protons, two electrons, two neutrons. And the atom of carbon, which is essentially the foundation of the organic life, is made of 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. So all the periodic table of elements, all the elements are made of electrons, protons, and neutrons. Really, that's what creates physicality or creates the physical world we live in. Now, in this case, what I'm going to demonstrate here is that using the speed of light harmonic, the fundamental harmonic of light 144, we can recreate the material world. So using the equation of Einstein, which we have reorganized here on the left side, E equal energy over the speed of light squared, we're going to demonstrate how we can do that. So obviously, for the value of the speed of light harmonic, the c squared that we see here, we're going to be using the fundamental harmonic of light 144, right? So we're going to square this 144 value. So that's pretty simple, and that's what we're going to demonstrate. In terms of the energy now, that's part of this equation. Well, really the solution here is really to concentrate this light energy, this harmonic of light 144, within the volume of a Planck sphere. So what is a Planck sphere? So let me explain briefly, and I have a video in a few minutes that will explain that further. But essentially, at the quantum scale, what we call the Planck length is the smallest oscillation of energy, the smallest length that can exist at the quantum scale. Really the smallest thing that can exist in the universe. So in quantum physics, we call it the Planck length. So if we take this length as being the diameter of a sphere, because we live in a three-dimensional world, so we're dealing with a three-dimensional structure. So we're going to be using the sphere in terms of energetic structure. So if we take this length, the smallest length that can exist, and we represent it as being the diameter of a sphere, the sphere that we create, we'll call it the Planck sphere. So that sphere will represent the smallest sphere of energy that can exist at the quantum scale. Now, how is this equivalent to energy? Well, you know that the volume of that sphere itself, everything is filled with energy. And so that volume of energy, since we're using geometric harmonic units, we will be equating that to harmonic energy. So that energy, or that Planck sphere volume, is filled with that energy, and it's that value that we're going to be using here in the equation. So if we do this, and the representation of that Planck sphere energy, or the Planck sphere volume energy, can be represented by 1 over 2 times the speed of light harmonic here. The C again represents harmonic 144. So if we resolve this equation, and we divide this energy over the speed of light harmonic squared, we will be getting 1.6745 by 10 to the power of negative 24 grams. So again, since we're dealing with geometric harmonics, so we can neglect the exponents here. So we're going to be just using this value here, 1.6745, to simplify. Now, amazingly, what we're seeing here is that this value matches very nicely the value of the neutron, proton, and electron that I discussed earlier, which makes up all the elements of our periodic table. All the atoms are made of neutron, protons, and electrons. So the neutrons, for instance, the mass of the neutron is 1.6749 by 10 to the power negative 24 grams. So if you look at the match between what we obtained using the harmonic of light 144, there's a match at 99.98%, match with the value we will be getting from classical physics. If we look at the sum of the proton and electrons, 1.6736, we have a match of 99.95%. And finally, if we average the mass of the neutron, proton, and electrons that we find in, all the atoms, we'll be getting a value of 1.6743, which matches, again, very nicely with what we just obtained, 1.6745. So we have a match of 99.99% in this case here with classical physics. So again, to summarize here, when the fundamental harmonic of light 144 squared is concentrated, when that light energy is concentrated within the volume of the Planck sphere, being the smallest sphere of energy that can exist at the quantum scale, physical matter is produced. Proton, electrons, and neutrons are produced, which again represents over 99% of the visible universe we live in. So that is essentially the jig of it. So let me expand here, explain what the Planck sphere volume energy and the Planck length is. So I'm going to play a short video here which explains exactly what the Planck length is. It's going to help understand these concepts, and then we can dig further, and I can explain a little bit more detail how we get to these results.
Scientists have already discovered the pixel-sized building block of our universe, which is known as the Planck length. The smallest possible size for anything in our universe. It is at this point whereby the rules of gravity and space-time are no longer applicable. In our matrix simulation, this Planck length can be considered as one single pixel, as it is the tiniest amount which can be quantified. In the 1890s, Max Planck, the renowned physicist, suggested a set of units to streamline the representation of physics laws by applying the 5 constants in nature, such as the speed of light, the gravitational constant, and Planck constant. Quarks and leptons are the building blocks of matter and incredibly tiny, less than a billionth of a meter in diameter. If zooming further, a billion times more, beyond zeptometers and yoctometers, 100 million times smaller still, and eventually reaching the end will be the Planck length. Nothing beyond this point will be visible, as everything is energy, and nothing is physical. The scale of a Planck length, which is represented by 1.6 by 10 to the power of 35 meters, is the smallest thing that can be measured in our world, and for comparison purposes it is 100 million trillion times smaller than a proton. The Planck scale was devised as a set of universal units, but also represent the boundaries of the known laws of physics. Any space smaller than the Planck length does not work, as the physics completely break down. At the Planck scale, physicists theorize the 4 fundamental forces: gravity, the weak force, electromagnetism, and the strong force unite into a single force of energy. Thank you for watching, and do not forget to like and subscribe.
Okay, so again, as we just saw in the video here, the Planck length being the smallest oscillation of energy that can exist at the quantum scale. So if we take that energy, as I explained earlier, or that length, and we use this length as being the diameter of a sphere, the volume, the Planck sphere volume that we will be obtaining here will be equivalent to 348.021. So that's what the value that we'll be obtaining using classical physics. And again, this volume is expressed in nautical miles cubed. Now, there's an equivalent, as I said earlier, in terms of geometric harmonics. So we can obtain the same Planck sphere by using this equation here, 1 over 2 times the speed of light harmonics, again, a C is equivalent to 144. So we obtained an equivalent Planck sphere volume equivalent to 347.2, which matches nicely the value we'll be obtaining through, in quantum physics. Or using classical physics. So the match is at 99.8%. So this value here, this 1 over 2 times the speed of light harmonic, 1 over 2c, is what we've been using here, if you recall, in this equation here. The Planck sphere 1 over 2c represents the Planck sphere volume energy that is essentially introduced or integrated into this equation, the general relativity equation, from which we obtained, again, the mass of the building blocks that makes up all the atoms, right? The neutron, protons, and electrons have very, very high percent of accuracy. So this, for those who say, well, it's just an accident, the match is just so amazing that I seriously doubt it. It's quite amazing, and this ties into many other things that I introduced also in the past. So if we look at the simplified version of that equation of everything we've shown earlier in the previous slides, we can represent the creation of the matter, represented by the letter M here, by 1 over 2 times the speed of light harmonic cubed, right? So all this work we've done here, this calculation here can be simplified using this equation here, 1 over 2c cubed, which again leads to the production of the mass of the proton, neutrons, and electrons, which makes up all the atoms and essentially makes up all the periodic table of elements that represents the physicality or the production of matter, the physical world we live in. This equation, 1 over 2c cubed, is just one of many that I introduced a few months ago. We can see here in the summary of different equations here. And this is just one of them that we expanded upon. And as we can see here, all these formulas, which represents really a new perspective on physics. The building blocks of these equations is this speed of light harmonic 144 and the golden ratio, right? The golden ratio is also one of the keys of the universe, from which, in combination with this harmonic 144, we can recreate an entire new physics. Amazingly, this knowledge, this information has been encoded in the very dimension of the Great Pyramid of Giza thousands of years ago. Again, I'm not going to go through this in details. I already explained this in past interviews, but I encourage the folks who are interested to just go back to these interviews and see. But essentially, this harmonic 144, 432, and the golden ratio are the three building blocks of creation. And again, harmonic 432 is nothing else than 3 times 144, right? 3 times harmonic 144, and even the golden ratio has a representation in terms of this harmonic 144 as well. So this information amazingly has been encoded in the very structure of the Great Pyramid of Giza thousands of years ago, and perhaps the intelligence who built or created this structure has encoded this knowledge. So one day humanity will pick up on it and decode this information and essentially create a new physics from which we can develop new technologies and so on. Also, amazingly, is that this knowledge also is encoded in many of the manifestations of sightings from non-human intelligences. So this is here a screenshot of a triangular craft, which I call the golden ratio triangular craft, which visited over 4 times already during transmissions with my high power radio station. And when we analyze again this unique shape of this triangular craft, we realize that these harmonics 144, 432, and golden ratio are encoded all over the place into the structures, again, as if they were communicating this information to us about the keys of the universe. And why is this important? Well, obviously, if we have a better understanding of how the universe operates and works, we can use this information, this new science, this new physics to develop healing technologies, develop interstellar communication, tap into the free energy of the Earth grid, develop anti-gravity, space travel, and even, again, this harmonic of light 144, as I demonstrated previously, is connected to our brain waves. Our brain waves in between the alpha and the theta states resonates at the reciprocal of this harmonic 144, as well as the Schumann resonance resonates exactly also with the reciprocal of this harmonic 144. So everything is connected together, and it is quite amazing, because if we think about it, this means that all the material world itself is made of this light vibration, this harmonic of light vibration 144. Everything emerges from this, like this spark. It's like the spark of source creation, really. This harmonic 144 is the spark of light from source creation. That's my interpretation of it. And again, here I'm going to end with this last slide, which shows the simplified equation of the work that I presented in the previous slides. And again, which I found very significant, because again, not only the scientific, but also I would say the philosophical implication of this are pretty profound. And it really means that we are made of light energy. Everything around us is made of this spark of light energy, and everything resonates with this. So that ends this short presentation here. Again, I just wanted to expand on this particular item, or this particular solution to the production of the material world. I may create additional videos in the future to expand on some of the other formulas that I introduced. But I hope you enjoyed, and thank you very much for your attention. Bless you all.